Hey YouTube, I am continuing my series on Jehovah's Witnesses and various issues surrounding the Jehovah's Witnesses, and today's issue is the issue of blood and blood transfusions. I understand that this is a very serious issue for devout Jehovah's Witnesses. I respect that. I'm going to treat it with dignity. However, it is serious to me because it has come to my attention and the attention of many other individuals that thousands of deaths, hundreds of thousands of deaths, have occurred because Jehovah's Witnesses, for lack of a better term, are refusing transfusions under false pretenses. And I have some facts to share with you. Allow me to pull them up here. They do see something as sacred and not to be tinkered with, blood that is. Transfusions originally became available in the 1950s, and doctors would actually force transfusions on Jehovah's Witnesses, despite them saying, no, we don't want anything to do with it. They said that they weren't against medicine, however, they wanted a different treatment that didn't involve blood, which I suppose is reasonable, had there been another treatment available. There was no other way for 30 years, so there was this huge conflict until the 1980s when the AIDS and HIV scare developed and blood transfusions became necessary. That eventually led to what is referred to now as bloodless surgery. And what this is it is essentially surgery that is performed in such a way that so little blood is lost that a transfusion is not necessary. And a lot of doctors are actually saying now that that should be considered the standard because it's so much more efficient, I suppose. Now, there are some biblical references that contradict this belief of the watchtowers that you should not accept blood. And it's based on a misunderstanding. Let me find what I was looking at here. In the book of Acts, in the New World Testament, which I believe is the book used by Watchtower primarily. It is talked about, let me find the verse here, just bear with me for 1 second. James says to keep yourselves free from idols, from blood, from things strangled, and from fornication. If you carefully keep yourselves from them, you will prosper. Good health to you. It's fairly straightforward. The issue at hand, however, was that certain Jewish men were insisting that Gentiles should be circumcised. They were making it a salvation issue, essentially. And it caused an issue in the church because James and the other prophets believed that the only circumcision necessary was the circumcision of the heart. So it was figurative, obviously. And all ceremonial parts had been fulfilled in Christ, as the Gentiles said. Now, I'm not saying that the Jews were wrong for the circumcision deal. I'm just explaining what happened historically, biblically speaking. Some were eating meat from animals that hadn't been bled properly. Some had been strangled, which went against what James said in Acts 15, to be specific. In 1 Corinthians, it was said that eating food that has been offered in a temple is actually an issue of conscience, not an issue of doctrine. And it was never stated that blood could not be shared between humans, if necessary. This simply referred, the whole blood issue, simply referred to not eating animals that had been bled improperly or strangled, which seems pretty reasonable when you think about it. The only reason why this came about was because James and the other prophets, and I guess the government at the time, were trying to create a further sense of peace between the Gentiles and the Jews. So it wasn't mandatory, but it was recommended. So there you go. Basically, since then, well, since the 1950s, only since the 1950s has the blood transfusion thing been an issue, and it has been misinterpreted for decades following that. So for those of you who follow a similar set of beliefs or an exact set of beliefs, that which replicates this, consider what you're reading. Consider what the governing body is teaching you. Consider your roots before you decide that when your child needs a blood transfusion, you turn them down. For one thing, in this country, we consider that murder, negligence, gross negligence, but it's also it's unnecessary. You don't need to go that path. God never said, according to the Bible, speaking from the Bible here, God never said anything against blood transfusions. It was simply suggested by James and other prophets that you not partake of animals that were bled improperly or strangled. And that was so that you could get along with the Jews better. So, as I said, take that into consideration. Thousands, as I said, of Jehovah's Witnesses have died because receiving blood would get them excommunicated. And the tragedy is that the sacrifice of death was one that God doesn't actually want us to make, according to the Bible, as I said earlier. And the Watchtower Society is wrong to keep insisting that this is necessary. So when you're seeking forgiveness after receiving a blood transfusion, consider whether God forgives you, whether you forgive the Watchtower for telling you this for years and years, and you forgive yourself. Those are the three main points here. I'll be posting I'll be citing my sources in the sidebar under more info here after this video. So you can check out the videos that I've been watching, which are actually pretty insightful, very interesting. And please, as usual, feel free to, leave me a response and start a discussion if you want to. As usual, I appreciate your views and your support for those of you who have given it. And once again, thank you for watching. Have a good day.